So our next panel is looking at a local manufacturing GT machining from Napanee. We're going to invite our panelists on the GT machining panel to come forward. And we have several panelists for this one. Our MBA students are live and in person today. So we're going to invite Chris and Sufian to come forward first. And they're going to talk about some of the work they did with GT machining. And then we'll have a commentary from our panelists.
There's a clicker? Great. Thank you very much for inviting us here today. My name is Sufian, and I'm here with my colleague Chris Sinkinson, and we're here to talk about GT machining. I've been standing at the back for a little while, and I can see that you can't probably see our slides, so please feel free to use the handouts that you've been provided. So just to start off with, we were assigned to go visit GT Machining, which is located in Napanee, as part of our assignment for operations management. And the purpose of our visit was to determine, to see an actual plant in action and to determine any bottlenecks that we could find and maybe provide recommendations as to how we could improve on these. The trip itself was amazing. The GT Machining team was able to provide us with a lot of insight. Just a little bit about the company. They're primarily based, as I mentioned earlier, in Napanee, and they have about 4 plants. We were able to visit spend most of our time in plant number 2, which deals with their production operations, and 90% of their revenue comes from their military operations, which they have contracts with the military. So during our tour, we were able to see a lot of their processes in action, as my colleague Chris will mention later on, and also see how some of the recommendations that we could apply from our theoretical perspective from what we studied in the course could actually be taken into place into the actual operations of GT machining. So just to start off with, we did a rapid plan assessment for GT machining when we first visited the tour, which is basically a quick and dirty audit of how the firm is running its operations. We were able to see there are certain categories which we were able to score the plant on, and which included things like cleanliness, operations, how maintenance work was being carried out, how management was being treated, how employees were being treated, and so on and so forth. So just to give you a brief example, an average machining firm, an average manufacturing firm gets a score of 55 when scored on the rapid plan assessment. GT Machining had a score of 73 according to our estimates, which is a very impressive score, and it shows that the company is doing leaps and bounds ahead of its competitors, is doing all it can to actually improve its operations process. At this point in time, I'd like to invite my colleague Chris to talk a little bit more about the plant, and then I'll come back again to conclude our presentation. Chris?
Thanks, Sufian. So yeah, I guess we can't really see what's up here. I'm going to go through, I think that's the first slide. Yep. Oh, I can see it there. Thank you. Yeah, so we got to go out to Napanee, and I'm actually from, my parents live in Bath, Ontario. So going out to Napanee was kind of like being right near home, kind of a neat opportunity. We went out there to look at GT machining, like Sufi said, to kind of do a plant assessment. The primary product we wanted to look at was their enhanced container handling unit, which they developed for the U.S. military. It's actually, if you can see it in the slides, there's a picture of a truck kind of grabbing a cargo container, and they actually build that mechanism that pulls it onto the back of the truck. They currently have an order for 50 of these a month, total order of 1,700, and they're basically going as fast as they can to produce these pieces of equipment. If you look at the components, the actual unit itself is made up of 3 main components. I'm going to show the slides of it really quickly. You're going to see them in the slides where it says ECU component 1, 2, and 3. We were really impressed. I'm kind of a nerdy tech guy, and when I saw robots doing all sorts of cool welding automatically, it was pretty amazing. So I got pretty excited. GT Machining uses kind of like a job shop sort of setup where they've got each component being built in different areas. One of the few things we could actually kind of critique them on is that they spend a lot of time moving that work in progress from one part of the plant to the next. So we tried to map that out over top of a plant map here. So that was one of the few things we could actually criticize on them. The real bottleneck in their process is their paint and blast facility. The way we were able to identify that is there was a lot of work in progress waiting to go into that paint and blast facility. Kind of cool thing, the paint used on this component is like stealth paint. So you have to be able to keep track of every drop of it. So very secure area. They kept a very close eye on us as we went through the plant. So again, we identified that basically the work in progress was moving quite a bit. They were using a job shop production process rather than an assembly line, and this bottleneck at paint and blast, and they're just struggling for space as well. It's kind of a good problem to deal with. But what we really realized is we've done all this work and looked at textbooks and how you're supposed to set up plants from an operation perspective and things like that. And we realized that the real world is a whole lot tougher than a textbook. They really can't stop production to reorganize or anything like that. They've got to ship 50 of these units out the back door every month. So it was a real shock to our systems when we thought, oh, this is simple. Just reorganize this plant. Well, you can't shut down for 6 months to do that. So, and I'm sure Darrell will talk about that more later. So we did make some recommendations. We said, can we go and look at making more or having more space dedicated to this paint and blast? Again, that would solve the problem, but we really couldn't find the time to slow down and actually implement that. We also looked at outsourcing some of the sandblasting. There was another facility nearby that does sandblasting. There was a little bit of control issues there. We also suggested maybe working on weekends, and I think all the staff there got pretty ugly with us at that point and thought we'd better move along. Also, when we were moving the work in progress, we thought, is there some way that we can do that temporary shutdown, or can we go out and get some additional storage space or acquire a crane? So these were all really nice ideas that would have sounded really good on a case analysis for a professor, but in the real world, it really came down to not being able to slow down production to implement those types of changes. So really quickly, I'm just going to, I'm going to pass it over to Sufian to go over the takeaways and finish up.
So as Chris already mentioned, our biggest takeaway from this whole visit was to actually see the difference between what they teach us in the classroom and what we actually see in real life. A lot of the recommendations we made, which we thought would have been good on our report, were actually not practically possible. I mean, you could not shut a plant for 6 months because you would lose all the revenue and perhaps your customer will go away. You could also not reorganize the plant itself just while production was happening because that was not feasibly possible. So I think we realized that there's a big difference between what is taught in the classroom and what happens in real life. And also, the opportunity to go visit the plant and see an actual plant in operation in real life was a significant experience for all of us. Some of the members from our team actually had worked in different kinds of plants based on what they did previously before coming to the MBA. However, we'd never been in a machining operation before, and all of us were very excited looking at the big trucks and all the facilities that they had and all the robotics, as Chris mentioned. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Darrell and the GT Machining team for inviting us over. We had a great time. And also to the Monieson Centre for inviting us here today to actually speak about our visit. Thank you very much.
Our thanks to both Chris and Sufian. We should mention that Chris is actually one of the winners of our QSB Palace CFTC business plan competition. So early in March, I had the honor of sitting in on his team's presentation where they won a $150,000 interest-free loan to launch their high-tech business in Prince Edward Lennox in Addington County. So upon graduation, he's a local businessman. So congratulations, Chris. Our next panelist is Darrell Carnegie, who's going to share some of his reflections on both GT machining and the work the students did.
Hello, glad to be here today. Not sure I'm going to follow the slides, but this was the second MBA study that we took, that we participated in. The first one was really a good opportunity for us to learn. What I took away from that, it was 2000 and I think maybe 8. Our sales were maybe $8 million and in a big decline. We didn't have too many professionals up front in the business. So the MBA team came in and I expected that, they would focus in on a particular problem. I am a business grad. I kind of thought, well, they'll come in, do their thing, and they kind of shocked me and turned my attention completely in another direction. So, you know, the value for us was that a third-party objective group could come in without any preconceptions, and they completely swayed my thinking. And at that point in time, really, I was one of 2 or 3, you know, administrative people in the company. The second time they came in was a bit of a setup because we've grown probably 500% since 2007. The reason why is Bombardier decided to exit this territory for manufacturing. Yes, they have you know, a business here, but they're not manufacturing. They closed that plant in 2003. GT always made good products, and you know, what they didn't do was the upfront stuff. They didn't do the sales, the marketing, the project management, the cost control, but they could make good product. When Bombardier exited, I recruited. I was ex-Bombardier 20 years, and there's a slide in here that you could see, but the setup was really that we have 6 people from Bombardier with over 20 years in their discipline in the front office now. The guy running the operations, Bombardier was kind enough to send him to Phoenix, spent all kinds of money on him to train him to be a 6 Sigma black belt. So, you know, when they came in and they couldn't really find any, you know, room to maneuver, that was just, I wasn't really surprised, but I was looking to see if something would pop out like the first time. What's happened to us is really, like I said, Bombardier left manufacturing. When they did, I was at the Kingston site. I was doing the military business. Bombardier decided they didn't want to be in the military, so I left. And GT Machining was a major subcontractor for military product. And Bombardier wanted to stay in the rail, had too many rail plants, so they focused on rail, closed Kingston down. And I left and took the military project to GT Machining. That project actually spurred another project. And so, you know, they covered the fact that we have 1,700 container handling units to make. We are minutes away from signing another 1,500. So we have work now till March on the books. We have March 2012. And within the next 60 days, we'll be signing 2 more years of work, hiring 20 more people, increasing from 140 to 160 people. We came out of a small job shop, but you know, when the company, you can see in the slides, we do some work for Goodyear, we do some work for Procter & Gamble. That kind of work, you know, really is getting tsunamied by the military, the US military. And really, I don't think we'll ever be going back to that business. It's just too tough out there right now, too many people willing to work for nothing. That's just not who we are. We've migrated into, I call it Bombardier West. So, you know, we're in a sweet spot in manufacturing where we don't have too much overhead. So we can go in and compete against the big boys. This container handling unit, we took away from the incumbent. It was Oshkosh Truck, $4 billion US in sales in Wisconsin, and we pulled that away from them. It's Bombardier again, gave us great training, taught me all the bilateral agreements. Canada is actually the 51st state when it comes to defense work. So we're in that sweet spot where our cost is not, you know, significant, and we can compete against big players. So I think the challenge for us is we're really a one-horse town, and we have to move into the Canadian market where we're virtually unknown. There's a lot of repair and overhaul work coming up in the Canadian business. Our first contract was bridging pallets. It's a pallet sits on the back of a heavy truck to launch mobile bridge sections so that you can cross rivers quite quickly. I have a slide in here showing the evolution in 2003. If you go to the Bombardier the slide called Corporate Evolution, you can see, you know, the Napanee area is full of great people that can manufacture stuff. I came over from Bombardier, and I'm the general manager. We have the production manager from the Bombardier plant, the senior designer, procurement supervisor, and the aftermarket person are all at GT Machining now. So I guess this, you know, when Bombardier decided to exit, that was our windfall. Couple reflections on Eastern Ontario, running a business in a rural community. Employees have a really strong work ethic. It's a really community-oriented event. You know, you don't have to ask them to work hard. It's just in their nature. You know, they're at home rebuilding stuff. They're, you know, making trailers for hunting, this and that. They come in and they're very innovative and easy to cross-train. The one thing we've had to work on is I say they have a get her done attitude, but I have to say get her done safely, please, you know, because their attitude is like, how do I get from A to B, and I don't care what I do to get there, whereas we had to really start telling, hey, no, you got to use a crane for that stuff, and, you know, be cognizant of what's going on the safety front. The small community means a limited pool, okay, like we have one family in the Napanee area that has had 26 direct relatives working for our company. So, bit touchy, right? If you have to discipline one guy, then there's a cascade event, and they're not all the same names. So the first thing that happens when a new person comes into the management team is you have to educate them on the tree. He is married to her, whose brother, anyways. So, and the Christmas party is a lot of fun that way. Anyways, just to conclude, like I said, the MBA study has been really good for us because it really changed the direction what I did in 2008. They identified the material, our procurement department as their biggest problem, which was the last place I decided to look. And so then I changed 180 degrees, focused all of our attention over on the material section. And so, you know, this was a good opportunity to have a third party come in objectively and look at it and say, no, you know what, you're going at such a fast pace that there's no room to stop. So just to give you an idea, we were making 10 bridging pallets and 30 container handling units in 07. Now we're making 50 container handling units and 12 bridging pallets. Next year we'll be making 80 container handling units and 13 bridging pallets. So, you know, our production capacity is just squeezed to the limit, and you cannot stop it or you're going to be paying penalties. So anyways, I thank the team for coming in, and it was a good read, so thanks very much.
We're a very diverse community and economy as well. We have 4 communities: Loyalist Township, which is very much influenced by the city of Kingston, just to the west of here, the town of Greater Napanee, where GT is located. And we also have 2 locations to the north, one called Stone Mills, which actually happens to be the location for the first solar farm in Canada. It was commissioned about 2 years ago. And then we have another area, Addington Highlands, which is up around the Bon Echo Masnaw area. So as you can imagine, there's quite a few different things that we deal with on a daily basis based on a diversified economy. Having said that, we're certainly very proud to have GT Machining in our community, and Darrell and his team have done amazing work there, and it's really been fun to tag along and watch them grow. It's an extremely important part of our economy and a success story, not only in Lennox County, but really right across the province. GT was doing all this, having all this growth take place when everyone else was suffering and struggling. And I think that's something that, again, didn't happen very often across Ontario, let alone across North America. And I think it certainly goes to some of the things that Darrell talked about in their strategies and hitting the right markets and putting out an excellent product, and of course growing based on some of the information that he, provided here today. So again, we're very pleased about that company, and again, in a time when companies were downsizing, GT was actually hiring, and I think most importantly, they were hiring local individuals from Napanee who had been laid off from other manufacturing facilities across Eastern Ontario, be it from Kingston or be it from Belleville. That was a big part of, again, the family aspect, of course, of our community, but of course also the economy and the growth of our community. So they asked me really to talk about how we work with manufacturers in LNA County. And I have to admit that GT doesn't necessarily need a lot of my help or our help from an office standpoint because of what they do. What we do, though, with manufacturers and have done with GT is to try to help them get to the right people and to find collaborations and partners that can help them to go the next step, find funding opportunities, find dollars to help with skills training. So I'm a big proponent of working together. It's not necessarily about our office driving retention programs in our community, but it's working with all our partners and collaborators. Many of you have been here throughout the day as well. So Eastern Ontario and LNA in particular has some great partners. You've heard about the Prince Edward Langston and CFDC. They're really our right hand when it comes to working with manufacturers, providing those funding to help with skills training and some of the growth that's required in our communities. Great partnerships as well with the Ministry of Economic Development Trade. We have a gentleman named Chris Puttycombe who looks after our area. Chris is great. I mean, he comes along with me to meetings and meets with Darrell and other manufacturers in our community. And he's there again to help get to the bottom line of what's required to help you find the funding or to grow your operations through some of the bureaucracies and hoops that have to be jumped through with respect to the province. I also do a lot of partnerships with LNA with our local communities and local partners. So we have a good partnership with the Quinte Economic Development Commission. They have a manufacturers association and a manufacturing network that we are part of and are proud to be part of that because there's been great funding opportunities and partnerships that come with that for our manufacturers. And I believe GT has taken advantage of some of the skills training programs that are available through the QMA and the association with Quinte Economic Development. And there's other groups as well. There's a group called Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium, which again I think GT is a partner in. And again, they're an organization to help manufacturers and to create a peer network to help and to assist them. So those are just some of the things that we do on the retention side of things. What I'm most interested in with respect to the GT story is that it very much matches what we look to do from growing our community in LNA. Companies like GT are what we strive to attract and to grow in Lennox and Addington County. Our biggest employer right now is Goodyear. They have 800 plus employees. That's great and extremely important to our community. But with Goodyear, any given day, a phone call can come from head office saying, sorry, but we're closing the doors. We don't think that can happen with companies like GT who are locally grown and are basically a build-in LNA opportunity. So we spend a lot of time at growing entrepreneurs and growing small industry within Lennox and Addington County because we want the next GT to come along. GT, if I'm not mistaken, really was started by the three owners getting together one day and saying, we're tired of working somewhere else. We've got some good ideas. We know we can be successful. Let's partner up and go forward. And that's what you've seen today with the successes they have. We want to find those people in our community and to help them grow. So we do that through many different programs. We're focusing a lot on entrepreneurship. We've just instilled a program called Enterprise Facilitation. I think you're going to hear a little bit about that from Darrell, who's in the next group. But Enterprise Facilitation, and Tracy Snow is here, who's our facilitator. It's a program that is grassroots, on the ground, getting to creative individuals with ideas who want to be an entrepreneur or business owner and helping them to grow. And again, our hope is that they become GTs down the road. We're doing that through entrepreneurship programs as well in our high schools. We just 2 weeks ago took 3 bus loads of students from the Napanee District Secondary School to visit small businesses, small industries in LNA County to show them that yes, you can be successful in your community. And again, you can take that idea and that creative thought that you have in your mind and grow it into a successful operation, be it 2 people, 3 people, or up to 160 people. So that's the big approach that we're taking. We're excited about it. We know that growth comes from within. We have a Made It in LNA attraction program and a business program that we really focus on. And I'll leave it at the fact that GT is a wonderful success story, and we just hope that in a few years' time we can come and talk about others that are kind of within our farm system that we grew to become as strong as GT. So thanks for the opportunity to tell a little bit about our story.
And our last panelist is Sandra Olszowka, Projects Director at our partner here, the Queen Centre for Business Venturing. And I think as you've heard in both the story of GT Manufacturing or GT Machining, as well as Denise stories from Renfrew County and the cabinetry business and the forestry industry, there's increasing pressure for companies in Eastern Ontario to be highly efficient, to produce more with less. And so Sandra's going to talk about a tool that's come out of School of Business Research that can help companies be more effective and be more efficient. Sandra.
That's great, Jeff. Thanks very much. And thank you to the Monieson Centre for inviting me here today. And good afternoon to everybody. And absolutely, we talk about sustainability of businesses. And you know, for those that are lucky enough to sustain themselves, to also grow and be successful. And in essence, it all comes down to, do organizations really know what their strengths are? And do they know where their weaknesses are as well? So the best small and medium employers study, which I'll actually hold up. These are magazine covers from Profit Magazine. They had dedicated pretty much entire issues to our study to get the word out and to celebrate the winners. So more specifically, what is the best small and medium employers in Canada study? And it's an annual study that we do, same time every year. So we're in the process of doing registrations. The survey site is open from May 1st until June the 30th. And it is a survey that is done by the employees of an organization as well as the leadership team of the organization. And it's a joint effort. It's a partnership between the Centre for Business Venturing, Aon Hewitt, which is a global HR consulting firm, and Profit and Maclean's magazine. So we're very happy to have everyone as partners on this. There are some special features of the Best Small and Medium Employer Study. For instance, we have a number of reports and services that are available to organizations to get their results so that they can do something with them. And more specifically, we also assist in the writing of strategic plans for companies as well, because it's one thing to get the data, to get their results, but it's another thing to operationalize them. And we have some very granular results and very helpful information that we're able to feed back into companies. It's also cost effective for organizations who don't have the funds to purchase reports. They get a complimentary report. It's a smaller version of some of the other reports, but nonetheless, it's still very valuable information. So it is possible to participate for no cost, and as well for a number of companies as an incentive to participate early on, we offer an in-house management debriefing where we'll go out on site to help you interpret your results. So in terms of what is measured, there's two things. One is that we look at leadership alignment. So are all your leaders on the same page? We all think that everybody has the same message, but that may not necessarily be the case. The other thing we look at is employee engagement. And in fact, that's the critical thing that our whole survey is based upon, is employee engagement. So what is engagement? A lot of people think it has to do with, are employees happy, are they loyal, and that isn't our term, our definition of engagement. More specifically, it's about an employee's emotional and intellectual commitment to the workforce, to organizational success. So really, are they committed to the company, or are they, in essence, coming into work, sitting down at their desk, possibly doing some work during the day and leaving? So it measures the degree to which they're really committed. And it comes down to three main areas of engagement. We call it the say, stay, and strive principle. So say is, what do organizations say about your company? So either when you're listening or not listening, are they saying positive things about their coworkers and about the management and about your company, or not? Stay. Do they have long-term plans to stay at your organization, or are they secretly or not so secretly looking at Workopolis at their desks, trying to find the next, exit out? And also strive. Do they really care about the success of your company, and are they prepared to participate in that success? There's 21 engagement drivers. And it's a big list, so you've got the list, but in essence, it looks at every critical dimension that's really necessary for understanding how you as a company is performing, and also how your employees interpret that. You might think you have the best benefits programs, and you might think that everything's just wonderful at your organization, but is that truly being translated into employee engagement? So in terms of why do organizations participate, one is just to get the pulse of their organization. Are things going as well as you think they're going? Are there weak spots? It really uncovers what's going on and where it's going on. It also benchmarks. We have a portion of the report where what it will do is it will take your results and it can compare you against the people who are also in the study, but it can also compare you against your direct competitors. So you can sit there and go, aha, so if I'm an insurance company, am I performing to the standard of my industry? Am I outperforming them? So it gives you very valuable benchmarking abilities. It also helps you improve your human resources, managing your human resources. We find for some companies, their engagement levels are extremely high for employees who have started the first couple of years, and then in year 3 and beyond, the employees are extremely dissatisfied. So for those types of companies getting that type of feedback, you have to step back and go, okay, what have I done to everybody that in 3 years I've taken a very committed and excited workforce and turned them into people who are just not happy. So again, it's one thing to get the results, it's another thing to do something with it. And the other thing is to attract and develop and retain talent. Because what happens is that for companies who are listed as a best employer, they find that it's a very different reality. And you'll find in your slides that I've got some quantitative information on the benefits of participating. It talks about a 65% greater share price increase, 20% less absenteeism, 45% less lost time accidents. And there's more data as well, but what it points to is that there's real measurable value in knowing how your company's performing and to be able to respond to that. Because companies that have an engaged workforce really are benefiting in a number of different ways. It's not just financial, it's attracting and retaining the talent that you have, getting the best talent that you can in your area. It's high morale, you'll have a great culture, an engaged culture, and it really translates into productivity as well. So in the past, just to give some quick numbers, we've had over 200 companies, small and medium companies register. More than 150 went through the process, and more than 100 qualified for ranking into the study. So in order to participate, you need to register. That's the first sort of gate. You also need to be in business at least 3 years and have between 50 and 399 employees, so just under 400 employees. But what we do as well is for companies that have at least 30 employees, we want them to not be excluded from the process. So what can happen is we would just put you in the non-qualifying round of the best small and medium. So while it means that you may not be a contender to get on the list, it does mean that you can get your results. And to us, that's really a key to everything. And you'll see in your slides there's a list of the top 25 of the 50 winners, and there's great geographic representation. Almost every province is represented, and it is diverse. We have nonprofits, we have Booty Camp Fitness, who's obviously a fitness company, and we have software, we've got some high-tech, biotech organizations involved, so it really is diverse. So if you're interested, please do have a look at our website, and maybe you can get on the list, and other than that, I wish everyone well, and thank you.
And that is a tool that we can, if you're an economic developer, we can help you connect that tool with businesses in your community as well. And we have done that throughout the life of the KISS project. One of the reevaluations we've had to do in sort of business school language, small and medium. Small means 50 and greater, like Sandra was saying, and medium is often 200 and greater. We've had to start reshaping expectations where we know in rural context, small is 2, 3 employees, and medium is 10 or more. So we're working to develop some of these tools to be better equipped to help with the rural businesses and the rural context. We have a few minutes for questions. Any questions for our panel? Oh, one over here.
Thank you. I was very impressed by GT's abilities in Napanee, but I was wondering if the students looked at any comparables, because Napanee also lost a long-standing business in gibbered furniture. And were there any things that could be learned from that the students picked up on, or that you were able to comment on in your responses to the students?
Great, thanks. So question is, have you seen any comparables in Napanee or elsewhere?
Well, unfortunately, the purpose of our report was just to look at a particular business. What we did compare it with was what the rest of the students did, our other peer mates who looked at other companies. And in that sense, we found that GT Machining was well ahead of the curve in how it was performing and how its operations were running, because this was an assignment for the purpose of seeing how the operations process of the plant runs and where we can identify bottlenecks to improve on those. So applying course material to practical application, for example. And we saw that we did not have a lot of recommendations to make because their existing processes were so well run, they were well ahead of the curve. Some of our peers did say that some of the companies they looked at were much more in need of reshaping than what we found with GT Machining. So that would be my answer to that. Yeah, sure.
Just add a little bit as well. We did do a bunch of cases where we were looking at best practices for an operations management perspective, and we did benchmark them against what's called the rapid plant assessment, which was, I think it was actually developed by the Japanese. It's like a Toyota thing, and it's really used to benchmark itself against the industry. They came out with a score of 73, whereas the average for fabrication and that type of industry, we're getting around a 55. So they were really ahead of the curve.
Great, thanks.
If I could just add one comment on that. I think the influx of the Bombardier side of the business brought an international sort of mentality to GT. The team from Bombardier, for instance, my past territory was Spare Parts North America Rail. So, you know, we did projects. The Vancouver SkyTrain was the Kingston Millhaven project. Kuala Lumpur was Kingston Millhaven. A lot of the team had a bigger international type of business focus. So the business that was lost in Napanee, I didn't know them very well, but it was my perception that it was mainly a homegrown, family-run, Canadian-focused business where. And that's what GT was when we got there. Our business was within a 60-mile radius, which stunned me that we could be profitable and successful and only be operating between Belleville and Brockville. So I think our focus is to reach a lot further, you know, outside of Canada.
Thanks, Darrell. And any other questions? All right. One over here, Bob.
Just a comment with regards to your question, and being somewhat familiar with GT just based on some research I've done in the business program, is understand the mentality and the management team there isn't your everyday just willing to accept the way things are. They're looking to venture into new alternatives, new opportunities. They have the mentality of what's required to be successful. That's what differentiates them and makes them more competitive, whether you give them a different grade or score. But I've done a lot of consulting myself, and I work with teams of students like yourself on projects, and you see the difference in the different companies. You know those who will be successful, you know those who won't. And it's the mentality and the drive of the management team that drives that success, and the support of the community that determines and facilitates that success. So what you're doing here today, this is a great thing, because this is what enables success within communities. This is how we can collaborate together to become more successful at what we do, regardless of what we do. But it's having the right mentality and taking the steps like you've done. You say global, you use a lot of different words, but the reality is they're looking to the future as to how can they become better at what they do.
That's a great point to end on, because after our break, we're going to talk about the future and what's the future of entrepreneurship in rural Eastern Ontario. So let's thank all our panelists for their participation.